And now he's dealing with the most difficult entries he's ever had to deal with. And he meticulously recorded every day with Barbra Streisand. Celebrating 25 years of marriage, James Brolin and Barbra Streisand are confronted with their greatest obstacle, a devastating reality that has prompted James to retire from acting. He is so committed to staying at home that he turned down a $2 million 0-cents part. Barbra Streisand has been secretly fighting an illness for a long time, a global issue that impacts countless females. This horrifying fact must be faced. Heart disease kills more women than all malignancies combined. Picture this. Cardiovascular disease and stroke will claim the lives of 1/3 of all women. A woman's life is tragically lost nearly every 80 seconds. Many families suffer fatal consequences because this silent killer is either ignored or misunderstood. When it comes to cardiovascular health, women typically receive worse treatment than males, exacerbating the situation. Sometimes patients with symptoms of a heart attack go undiagnosed or untreated because doctors fail to recognize them. The Yentl syndrome describes this type of unfair treatment. The word was coined by Barbra after her own film Yentl, which dealt with a female protagonist who had to assume a male identity in order to pursue her education. Barbara was taken aback and shocked as soon as she became aware of these substantial disparities in treatment. It dawned on her that heart disease was more than just a condition of the elderly, contrary to popular belief. Contrarily, it was a massive problem that hit women of all ages, particularly Black American women and younger women. James Brolin is actually bidding farewell to portions of his own brilliant career and not Barbra because of this extensive systemic health catastrophe. According to sources close to the Hollywood industry, James just declined a massive acting part worth $2 million, 0 cents. Simply being at home allowed him to be at Barbara's side while she takes on the formidable task of championing women's heart health. His choice demonstrates his unwavering backing for her and her crucial cause. His decision shows that there is more than just financial combining of their formerly independent bank account. There is an enormous need for financing research, awareness, and treatment centers, and James is standing by Barbra, willing to chip in toward the medical expenses of this worldwide battle as she advocates this cause. After 25 years of marriage, this is the greatest challenge they have faced. The following chapter may be the most tragic for James, since he prioritizes his wife's objective, a mission to save the lives of women above his own professional aspirations. It is a moving demonstration of unity in purpose and love. To appreciate Barbara's tenacity and dedication to this important cause, one must consider her life story, which is replete with obstacles that she overcame. On April 24th, 1942, Barbra Streisand came into this world in Brooklyn, New York. Emmanuel, Barbara's father and a well-regarded educator, had a seizure and died when Barbara was 15 months old. Upon his passing, the family was forced to relocate to live with her grandparents due to their little $250, 0 cents in savings. I have a feeling this one is going to be special. Was written by Barbara's father in her baby book. Although Barbara never knew her father, she later discovered the letter. She was profoundly affected by this early setback and her financial hardships. Young Barbara's life did not improve. Her stepfather was unfeeling and threatened to crush her spirit once her mother remarried. Barbara left home at the age of 16. She would occasionally sleep on the couches of friends, on old cots, or even on summer fire escapes because she had nowhere else to go and no money. There were just 3 dresses, 2 pairs of shoes, and 12 records in the one bag she clung to by means of tape. She continued her impeccable attendance record even then, studying in cafes and libraries. She made barely $17.00 a week from her part-time job, which paid only 75 cents per hour. She managed to avoid acknowledging her homelessness by paying her mother 2 weekly dinner visits. She mended it herself and even dyed it a different color. With leftover costume supplies, she wore the same coat for 3 years. She was well prepared for the cutthroat Hollywood industry and her subsequent outspokenness, thanks to the perseverance and heightened knowledge of social issues that she developed during this difficult time. As a theater usher in 1960, Barbra had already seen The Sound of Music over 100 times. By the time she was 18 years old, she rehearsed her singing parts in the theater on her own before work. And she committed every scene to memory. A stage manager mistakenly believed she was an understudy. When he heard her sing one night, she told him fearlessly she was auditioning, even though he had asked her to identify herself. Her dogged persistence was evident. The following weekend, she performed for $18, mere cents in a nightclub just 2 days later, a sum equal to twice her normal usher salary. She had never taken a vocal class before. She studied by singing in underground passages, listening for echoes and performing for tiny audiences. People frequently remarked that her voice was worth $1 million or that she looked too odd on producer's 5-cent face. Though, regardless, she performed Cry Me a River that night and then a hilarious cover of Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. For the first time in club history, the audience fell into a hushed silence before clapping for nearly 5 minutes in response to the judges' flawless scores. She demonstrated that attractiveness is not a prerequisite for talent. She boldly dropped the second A from her name in 1961, becoming Barbra, with the justification that it made her stand out. Refusing plastic surgery to alter her appearance, she maintained her Brooklyn accent and continued to sing the strange tunes she enjoyed. Despite expert advice to the contrary, she chose to maintain control over her image and music, demonstrating her unfaltering self-confidence. Her debut album was released in 1963 by Columbia Records. Since it only contained show tunes and not hit songs, they were afraid it would be a commercial failure, so they only printed 10,000 copies. Its unexpectedly high one-month sales of 150,000 copies, despite its mostly ballad content. All creative control was with Barbra. She defied every marketing recommendations of the time by selecting all of the songs and even turned down a color cover in favor of a monochrome shot. Album of the Year was her Grammy Award, which he won with his album, notably defeating Frank Sinatra in the process. It was her victory that caused some Grammy voters to stop voting altogether. This isn't chance. This is the result of ignoring those who fail to comprehend your vision, she famously stated in her brief acceptance speech. After that, in 1964, Funny Girl had its Broadway debut. Barbra played Fanny Brice an astounding 867 times, missing just 2 performances total, including one due to pneumonia. Her singing voice could traverse a range of 3.5 octaves, and many songs were composed with this extraordinary ability in mind. A broken sprinkler drenched her during a concert, but it didn't stop her from continuing to sing. This unforeseen turn of events became an integral part of the production because the director adored it. While performing in Funny Girl, Barbra suffered from extreme stage fright, which she worsened following a 1967 performance in which he misplaced the lyrics. Her typically brave demeanor took on a more vulnerable and human quality as a result of the 27 years she spent away from the stage due to her fear. Barbra got a $5 million TV deal with CBS for 10 specials in 1965 when she was only 23 years old. She was granted full authority by the contract. CBS was unable to make any changes without her consent. They were unable to insert advertisements throughout her performances. My Name is Barbra, her debut special, was a total rule breaker. As she began the broadcast by singing in the dark, the network executives were frightened. However, 71% of the population that night was glued to their screens. She won 5 Emmys and was so involved with the show's editing that the director eventually confessed he had only followed her directions. After becoming famous on Broadway, Barbra Streisand transferred her star power to the silver screen in 1968 with Funny Girl, playing the character that had made her famous in the first place. The picture became the highest-grossing film of the year in America after its meteoric rise to fame. In her very first film, Barbra received the Oscar for Best Actress for her strong performance. Surprisingly, she was tied with Katharine Hepburn. Particular category of Oscars has never before had a tie. However, directing her debut film, Yentl, in 1983 was her greatest challenge. She persisted for 15 years to get it produced, and after 12 rejections, one studio ultimately allocated her $14,500,000, 0 cents. She frequently put in 20-hour days for the production. Even while leading a predominantly male crew, she hid her identity by donning tight restraints. Even though several crew members had staked money on her failure, she ended up proving them all incorrect. Hollywood raked in more than $40 million, 0 cents. Unfair treatment based on Barbra's gender persisted even after the film's success. She was a woman, and one voter confessed he didn't vote for her because of it. The percentage of female directors at major studios was a meager 0.5% back then. Even though Yentl was critically acclaimed in 1984, Barbra was not nominated for Best Director at the Golden Globes. Rather, they created an award just for her, Best Director of a Musical or Comedy, which was then dismantled the next year. Barbra respectfully questioned this decision throughout the ceremony, inquiring as to why she was left out. Congress subsequently cited her case as evidence of gender bias in Hollywood due to its widespread public awareness. She is known as a trailblazer due to her persistent fight against sexism throughout her career. Even more history was made by Barbra in 1995. She became the first woman to ever receive the Directors Guild Award for television directing, a distinction she earned for directing an HBO concert special. A total of 223 camera setups, 125 crew people, and 11 cameras were used for the show. She accomplished all this while suffering from severe stage fright, which she received after forgetting the words to a song at a performance in 1967. She stayed off stage for 27 years due to her fear. With 26 million viewers and $93 million, 0 cents in earnings, the show was a huge success despite her personal struggles. One thing that Barbra brought up at the ceremony was the fact that women only made up 3.7% of TV directors. She had her first fight with the DGA on the same problem 25 years ago, and she finally prevailed. Celebrity blind dates James Brolin and Barbra Streisand occurred on July 1, 1996. They had both been through difficult, unsuccessful relationships and were in their mid-50s. James was $1,400,000, 0 cents in the red from his second marriage, which he had just terminated, and Barbra had been divorced since 1971. Following 2 cancellations, their friend Linda Bruckheim-Eimer arranged for them to meet. Due to his extreme anxiety, James even took Valium. James was clean-shaven for a different part, but Barbra was expecting a bearded, rugged man like a mountain man. "Who messed up your hair?" was her initial statement to him. James was stung by that remark. It had been 11 years since his ex-wife had made a compliment on his appearance. "I was about to walk out," he said. Nevertheless, he stayed because of Barbra's eyes. Their conversation lasted 6 hours, ending at 3:27 a.m. In retrospect, they see that their birthplaces in Los Angeles were only 3.4 miles apart. Barbra still retains the framed lock of his hair and the handwritten message she asked for that night in their home. She said that she sensed he was different from the 28 blind dates she had gone on in the previous 3 years after only 17 minutes of meeting him. Barbra had been secretly engaged to another man when they first met, which James was unaware of at the time, and only revealed in her memoir written years later. Their 5th date was the one that ended the relationship. James made 3 attempts to pop the question. Their first was in a hot air balloon over Napa Valley, which was just 87 days after they met. His gift to her was a $250,000 0-cent diamond that weighed 3.9 carats. Barbra, however, declined, citing her 2-year rule as a result of a traumatic experience with her previous fiancé. They built trust carefully and deliberately, and her initial rejections based on past trauma illustrate this. On the eve of the 1997 New Year in New York, he made his second proposal. Kneeling in front of her 14 friends, he sang the song she had loved since she was a little girl. She declined once more. James's continuous efforts, which culminated in an intimate letter, show his dedication and comprehension of Barbra's desire for a meaningful relationship. On the 3rd try, it was successful. On the afternoon of March 15, 1998, she hosted a picnic at her Malibu residence. This time, he presented her with a lengthy letter, 28 reasons why they should be together. 2 years after their initial date, they tied a knot. On the 1st of July 1998, held at Barbra's Malibu mansion, the wedding cost $1.4 million. There was a high level of security. A no-fly zone was in place, and all visitors and employees had to sign non-disclosure agreements with fines of $250,000. 0 cents for violations. There were also 37 guards on duty. The ceremony commenced at 8:47 p.m. They met for the first time at this precise moment. 15,000 white flowers and orchids were brought in a plane from 4 different nations. Among the notable attendees were Marlon Brando, the Clintons, Oprah Winfrey, and Tom Hanks. James sported an Armani suit adorned with diamond cufflinks, while Barbra sported a gown that had a train measuring 27 feet. A children's choir from Barbra's organization sang her song, "I Have Finally Found You." During the ceremony, James spoke at the reception. Barbra had it framed at 11:43 p.m. and it had 273 words. He went on to say that Barbra was the one thing that finally put an end to his 27-year battle with insomnia. In the 642 evenings leading up to the wedding, they read poetry aloud in bed, engaging in crossword puzzles and divulging secrets from their past. As a practical prank, James even studied the piano composition Barbra's Lullaby, which he misspelled to make it sound more romantic. In retrospect, John Travolta revealed that James had documented their daily lives in a journal that he intended to present to her on their silver wedding anniversary. That was accomplished in 2023. The practice of bifurcation, in which James and Barbra maintained separate bank accounts from the beginning of their marriage, persisted throughout their whole marriage. After losing $3 million 0 cents in his second divorce, James had the idea to do this, according to him, every Tuesday. They even shared the dinner bill. Along with James's $60 million 0 cents, Barbra had a $400 million 0 cents fortune. Because of this, things remained stable. They put $800,000 0 cents toward the house in a single joint account. According to an interview James gave in 2023, this arrangement prevented the marriage-ending money disputes that plagued other Hollywood unions. Their friendship was much deeper during the COVID-19 lockdown. Despite the difficulties, many couples managed to fall in love again and spent 425 consecutive nights together. They would get up at 6:45 in the morning, meditate, and then make breakfast. For every conceivable year of marriage, they completed 37 puzzles. In costume, they acted out scenes from both Bridgerton and The Crown, which they watched twice. While under lockdown, they penned a 278-page journal that James has said may be turned into a memoir. They used their Swedish mattress, which cost $35,000, 0 cents, as their office or boardroom. Both of them had their own dedicated support settings, and there were designated areas for papers and cushions that could be transformed into laptop stands. From that bed, they ruled out major options for their careers. While lying there, Barbra's 2018 CD features songs that she wrote herself. They spent $175,000, 0 cents, to have their bedroom soundproofed. Most of their brilliant ideas, according to James, originated in that peaceful place. There was a unique method that James and Barbra used to resolve their arguments. They went on walks, they were quite rule-abiding, they strolled in opposite ways around their 3.2-acre estate without phones, taking deep breaths every 30 steps. They were to come back after 17 minutes and record their emotions in notebooks. At least 217 times they utilized this strategy. During a dispute in 2019 over Barbra's book, they went on 7 separate walks spread out over 3 days. They would request separate walkways from the hotel workers, even when on vacation. James mentioned that going for a stroll helped them relax mentally while effortlessly resolving issues. Reflecting on their personal struggles and triumphs, as well as their love story that is rooted in their diverse backgrounds, James and Barbra have demonstrated the power of unity in overcoming adversity, particularly when it involves saving the lives of countless people. Barbra Streisand is unwavering in her advocacy for the cardiovascular health of women, using her platform and celebrity to advocate for increased funding and improve healthcare. She persists have an impact. Her life narrative, including her battles with unfairness and stage anxiety, is shared in a biography, My Name is Barbara, which was released in 2023. Her dedication to improving the cardiovascular health of women is central to her life, even in the year 2025, when she is incredibly busy with new music and initiatives. Even if his concentration has changed, 83-year-old James Brolin is still performing and narrating. Refraining from a $2 million 0 cents part is a strong indication of his commitment to Barbra and her important work. He is more than simply her spouse. He is an ally in her struggle for healthcare equality for women. They are able to confront this enormous task as a team because of their special bond, which is based on trust, shared traditions, and profound respect. James Brolin's commitment to his job and his readiness to put Barbara's aspirations are balanced by a common goal. By refocusing his work goals rather than stepping back, he is showing his unwavering support for his wife's battle against a devastating condition that affects millions of others.